Before I get into this video, I want you to comment below what camera inspires you. A camera that makes you feel free to make mistakes, experiment, and just makes you fall in love with the process. This is certainly a different video for my channel, but an important one in my opinion. Now, is it just me, or does it feel like our community of filmmakers and photographers are there's a little bit of tension there, especially when a new camera gets released and it doesn't match the people's expectations of the specs and things like that. You know, brands will do what they do, but I feel like, you know, if someone has an opinion on something, it becomes a feast of just words being thrown around, and not so nice words at that. And it really becomes sad to see, because now we've come to a point where cameras are so good, in my opinion, but we're all chasing this level of perfection, and we're also expecting the perfection to come from the brands. And I don't think that'll ever be the case. The brands are going to do what the brands are going to do. And it's up to us, the artists, to create the things that we see in our minds. But we shouldn't have to rely on these cameras to get us there. You know, they are the baseline. But in spite of all that, I want to get back to the basics. Reconnect to the joy that I had and the inspiration I felt when I first started my visual journey. And I found a camera for me that's done just that. And honestly, it saved my creativity. This is my X100VI. And his name is Alfred. Now, this portion of the video is sponsored by MPB, but they did not send this to me. I purchased this camera. I spent, I think, $2,400 on here. I'll put up the receipt. And I know it's worth it, because how I feel using it for the last, I think, 2.5 months of owning this camera. Yeah, I just can't, I can't beat the feeling that it gives me. And there's a couple of things you can kind of look for. Obviously, you can sell, you can trade, or you can buy straight up camera gear that you see on there. They have a large library of photography gear, and now they have a lot more video production gear as well. But I knew they were going to have this camera on the site, and I didn't want to dig around eBay and try to find, read the description and stuff like that. It was just always a risk. So I knew going to MPB I was going to have good options to pick from. I went with the like new option, so the closest to, I guess you can say, refurbished. And they have some other options like excellent or like new, which, that price will drop to get closer to probably around $2,000. No, this is not an investment. This is purely a purchase that I wanted to make, and MPB had it available. Also, if you're in the market to find cameras, check out MPB, or if you need to sell anything for extra cash, that's what it's there for. You get some of the best deals out there for your gear, so make sure to check it out. Indiana's weird. One moment we get beautiful warm weather like it is summer, and the next minute we get cold 50-degree weather. That's why I had that jacket on. But now the sun's out. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about perfectionism when it comes to the gear that we purchase. And I don't mean to get philosophical, but here we are with this video. Over the years, I've watched this conversation bloom into some heated debates with buyers being angry at brands and vice versa, kind of. And I've been in that crowd too, when certain camera brands release a camera, I'm like, why did they do that? This based on how I want it. And some camera brands do listen, and so on and so forth. And this is not directly to Fujifilm, this is for any and all camera brands. But this idea that in this conversation that we've been hearing for years is like finding the perfect camera. You hear often in reviewers to say, this is not the perfect camera. But granted, I try to stay away from that language, because one, I wholeheartedly believe that the camera is always the baseline. It's always going to be a foundation. And how you customize it and how you fit it into your workflow, it soon becomes perfect for what you need. And I want to say that out loud, because I have seen people really forget about this. They expect the camera to do anything and everything that they need it to. And you have to realize cameras are always going to have limitations. You are the artist, you are the craftsman, you are, anything and all things that are going to point this camera to what you're filming or what you're photographing. So to come with this idea that this camera is going to, solve all your problems is honestly, it's really silly to think that. I don't mean to be rude or anything like that. We have to continue to do the work to get the cameras to a point where we're happy, where it's functioning well in our workflow. And I watched this reel this past week, a young lady, I forget her name, but she has some beautiful content. And she talks about the issue of effortlessness.
Everyone is expecting effortless productivity and effortless output and effortless creativity. And I think that if you bypass effort, you're bypassing any meaningful results.
We are spoiled by higher megapixels and fast rolling shutters, or, this, that, and the other, high dynamic range. We get spoiled and we want the camera to do, unconsciously want the camera to do anything and everything that we need it to. And this just chasing after this effortlessness or perfection gets us angry for no reason when we don't see a certain feature. Now I'm talking about features, not so much like if a camera doesn't operate or anything like that, obviously. But you get what I'm trying to say now. It's an interesting thing to think about. And I hope that, those who do hear this be reminded that a camera is few percentages, a few steps in the right direction, but it will never take place of your creative mind. It won't take place of how you want to use the camera. And so think about perfectionism in your own right, because it's subjective in a lot of different ways. It looks different from everybody else. The X100VI is that for me. This video is actually the first time I'm showing a lot of images, because I rarely post images now. I just shoot for the enjoyment. That is crazy to say. You spend $2,000 and you don't show the images from it. I've shown some, but not all of it, and I don't show it crazy. And it's just subconsciously, it's that I'm happy to be able to be in the moment, take a photo, and then live with that. Like, I'm completely fine with that. But sometimes you just need to spend something on yourself that makes you enjoy the moment even more. And I love being able to share this with my family, with my children. This has become the family heirloom, and I've always wanted to do that. My son's really taking a liking to it. And it's crazy to see my son pick up the camera at such a young age. He's going on 4. He picked up the camera younger than me. It's that same kind of hand-me-down with my dad. He gave me his camera when I was around 12 years old. But he's doing this at 3 or 4, which is kind of crazy to see. And it gets emotional, so I'm not going to cry on camera, but I feel it. It's weird to talk about an object like this, but it means so much more because it's sharing memories, it's capturing memories. It becomes less of a hindrance for me to capture these things. I can take a photo and then be right back into the moment. I just have this with me and I'm going. Wow, what a rant. Whew. Obviously, you can tell this is totally unscripted, but it feels good to just be able to sit down and talk about this. All right, so let me just give you a tour of my camera and the accessories that I have. And I would have to say the one thing I just don't like about any and all of my accessories here is that they have so many different logos that I'm just like, I don't want this camera to be a walking billboard. I have like 5 different brands on here, which is really annoying to look at. Anyway, I digress. Straight up, I got a tempered glass screen protector. The thumb grip is from Polar Pro, because out of all the thumb grips I've tried, this is the only one that the only one that I know of, locks into the hot shoe. So it doesn't come out in transportation, which is really nice. I like being able to lock that in. And it's relatively comfortable. And so this is also a Polar Pro soft shutter button as well. I like the texture on it. And I put a little bit of Loctite in here so it doesn't come out. I can see, like, a lot of people won't do this to their cameras, but this is my camera. I paid money for it, so I'm going to use it. And so this has actually been my favorite grip. This is the Tilted grip from their vintage line. It's handsome. I like the little wood texture there, but also it has a deep grip. And, I hear this conversation a lot. It's like, I want to keep the form factor because that's what it's intended for. It's intended for you to use. And so if I want a deeper grip for more handling, because I do have big hands, this is the fit. This feels great. I have control. I'm not trying to hold on to my fingernails, nothing like that. This has that deep, nice grip. My rope, I have this rope that I got from Etsy. Now there's plenty of cheaper rope straps online. I just like really good craftsmanship, and so I'll put the name here. His straps look really great, and I've been really happy. I'd rather have rope straps because they don't kind of fold and roll up in a weird way when you're having it around your neck. I got a shorty. I think this is a 30 inch or 28 inch shorty here. I wish it was actually a little bit shorter so it can kind of lift up this way so I can kind of pull it up. I might get a shorter one, but that's what I have here. I know it's super popular to put a Misc filter on these cameras to emulate a softer look. I don't really care for that, but I really wanted to have a CPL filter and also have a hood. And up to this point, it's been impossible to do that until I found out and learned about Freewell. They actually have a CPL hood system where you can still use a square hood and rotate your CPL in the hood itself, which is brilliant. It's a little bulkier, but it still works really great. And this is a brilliant idea because the square hood looks great on this camera. You know, I can see it's starting to get some wear on it, but a CPL is great because, you know, if you want to kill some reflections of cars or landscapes and greenery and the sky, having a CPL is awesome. The CPL of choice that I picked is the black and white. It's so dirty. It's the black and white basic CPL MRC. Good quality glass there, and that's really it. There's not much more accessories you can add to this, but I'm exploring things. Tilta does have a top protection plate here, and I like the idea, but it has another Tilta logo. I'm like, what the heck? Just give me a plain top plate with no extra logo. Anyway, those are the accessories. So as you can kind of see here, I've blacked out my X100VI. I've been painting my cameras ever since my XE4 a few years ago, and I love the idea of having a completely blacked out X100 or just a completely blacked out Fujifilm camera. These are just beautifully designed cameras, and sometimes I feel like the logo and stuff, it gets distracting, and blacking it out just makes it so more uniformed. It's just gorgeous. So how I did this, and I'll make sure to put this in the description, I got a super fine tip brush. You can find it at Hobby Lobby or you can buy it on Amazon. I'll link it below. That allows you to be really gentle to get in between the crevices. The paint that I used, I've tried different paints. I've tried spray paint. I've tried some other, acrylic, which does not work because, if you want to use acrylic, you got to sand down this area to make sure it's adhered because there is paint on here already. The best paint I've learned to use is the enamel paint. Enamel black paint, black satin or semi-gloss, that's the one I use. I'll link below. And this paint is made for like toy models and stuff. So this is perfect to really adhere to the paint that's already on the camera. And this has been, I think, 2 months now and not a lot of wear and tear. There might be 1 or 2 touch-ups I need to do, but very happy with it. Yeah, on the numbers, it's starting to wear a little bit. The white's starting to come through. But I mean, I could probably just do a little touch up. I did not put a clear gloss, though I have clear gloss, which I need to protect it. If you're interested, I can just make a whole tutorial how I paint this. Comment below if you get to this point. But I did not do the numbers on the lens because what makes this really work is that the name and everything is kind of recessed, so the paint can go into it a bit better. With the paint on the lens, you can't do that because they're actually painted on here as well. So it's this nice kind of monochromatic kind of look. So there you have it. I'm looking to black out a few more things on here, but we'll get to that point. Kind of going off of my rant earlier about being effortless and the dangers of seeking that and wanting that is that limitations breed creativity. And if you haven't heard that before, it's absolutely true. Think about the moments where you had little to no gear, but you made an amazing image. It's because your brain was working to figure out what's the best way to turn this light this way or diffuse this light or move this camera with little that you have. And a camera like the X100VI, it has a lot of creative limitations, and I find that beautiful about this camera. So, I mean, just think about the lens. This is a fixed lens. And I love this idea of having a fixed lens because now you are focused on having to move for your composition. Granted, it has this little, that little trick where you can kind of punch in to the sensor for cropping. This is 40 megapixels, and you can punch in digitally with the turn of this wheel. Not having every single spec, not having the fastest burst rate, not having full frame, whatever that is, whatever the creative limitation is, I see that as a benefit because it's forcing me to be creative. It's forcing me to not rely on the camera too much, because once we do that, we fall into complacency, and then next we get bored. And maybe that's a direct connection, is that when we feel like the camera's doing all the work, we get bored, and that's when we go into this rabbit hole of buying the next camera and the next camera, because we're looking for that excitement, but at the same time we're asking for the camera to do all the stuff. It's this weird thing, and I'm making a lot of assumptions, and so I'm not trying to offend anybody. A lot of it's, from my earlier years and the way I thought about cameras, and now I have a different perspective. But I'm hoping that this is sort of a conversation we can all have in the comments below, because it's in a way, if we let this technology and we let the cameras dictate how we create, of course we're going to get bored. Of course we're going to just fall out of love with the things that we loved prior to getting a camera and a new camera and a new camera. So, cool. So my favorite subject matters right now to photograph, obviously, is my family, my son, my daughter. They have become my muse, as a lot of parents tend to do with their kids anyway, but it's been quite nice documenting their childhood in such a way where it's creating a different perspective of how I frame, how I think about color, composition, all those things. I take this on productions as as I direct, or if I DP, I like taking photos of the crew and everything, obviously my rigs and products and whatnot. So I use it for that a lot, things I post on Instagram. I even shot a whole YouTube video with the X100VI for the Fujifilm X100VI. It was a combination of my phone and this camera, and it fared well. Like the video out of here is quite nice, and it's great for just popping off a few things as I'm on the go. I'm planning to do that more often. But I'm looking to do more series. I started this small series just called Yellow, and really it's about just finding color and then finding that color in an interesting and unique spot. So I'm just going to just focus on that. So right now I'm just focusing on yellow. That's my own personal photo assignment, I guess you can say, photo essay. And then I do want to do more portraits. I haven't built up the courage to photograph strangers like on the street and stuff like that. I'm not trying to get into street photography, but I do want to get portraits. I love faces, and shooting, faces on a 28mm equivalent is very different, and I like what it's doing. So I'm embracing everything that this camera can do, and I love the fact that it's not intrusive. People don't get nervous. They say, "Oh wow, that's a handsome camera. It's a nice camera." I'm like, yeah, this is Alfred. So I like that it does kind of de-stress the tension instead of having a bigger camera like my GFX or something like that. But right now, those are the subject matters I'm photographing, and I'm pretty happy with it. Oh, also fun thing, I got invited to the GFX Eterna private event in LA. So drop your questions in this video, and I'll try to get to them a little later. But I thought that was very cool. Thank you again, Fujifilm. They've been a supporter for my channel this year, which has been fantastic, doing a few projects with them. I can't wait to get those projects out. It's taking a little bit of time, but I'm happy where it's going and excited to share with you all. Yeah, cool. That's all I got to say. Please add to this conversation. I would love to know your opinions on this. Am I talking crazy, or am I onto something? Yeah. I mean, I'm slowly trying to change a little bit the trajectory of this channel. Not to say that I've always been, you need to buy this, but I'm very open to the idea that, use what you have. If something makes sense to you, go get it if you feel like that's going to be a good investment for you. But let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to just creating the work that we love and not allowing the technology to get in the way. That's a testament to me. That's what I'm saying to myself, and whoever needs to hear that as well. And catch you guys next time. See you.